On this episode of Going Dork Reviews, we chat about episode 7 of Lovecraft Country. I'm joined once again by Sebastian Arnold to talk about things like portals, women feeling empowered, and we finally see that ORREY come to life. Stay tuned for all that and more on Going.
Pop up in our spaceship, we got Sasquatch and Llama. One's a little shy, but the other's a real drama. Pinball wizard pinging all planets at most. Another job done, hit the lights, close the blinds. Find a remote, let them know it's true crime, space fly shit.
Okay, Sebastian. Look who's back. Guess who's back? It's you and I. Going Dork Reviews, episode 7, Lovecraft Country. Oh, we're so happy to be back. So happy to see you again, Sebastian. Yeah, hear you again.
I'm so happy to be back. You know, it's fantastic to be watching again with a keen eye and to be having fun conversations.
Yeah. And it's weird because, I just didn't have the creative juices to sort of like I just needed a break. The pandemic had gotten to a place where it was just like so stressful. And, but it's funny because I revisited it, came back into it, popped right into episode 7. And I'm like, oh, that's where I was. I'm right back. Right. I'm in there.
I felt the same way.
Yeah. But it was weird. It was weird taking a little break and then coming back. But I had still like the episode.
If there's any show to do it for, it's this one.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just get into it. How about a little previously on Lovecraft Country? So the episode we just watched before this, episode 6, was set in Korea, South Korea, 1949. Jia is there. She's studying to be a nurse. We find out that she is cursed by something called the nine-tailed fox, and she has to kill 100 men to get her life back, I guess.
Yeah.
And then sort of we do the whole thing with Atticus, and we see that they sort of become not a thing, but they sort of have I guess they fuck, so it's like, they did decent. Get pretty personal in there. But yeah, and then basically the gist is her tales emerge when she's having sex with him, and then she sees this vision and says he shouldn't return, and then at the end of that, the relationship ends, and they're on to Back to the Future, I guess is what it was. So that leads us to episode 7.
Present tense.
Yeah, I love this one so far because it's a Hippolyta episode. And I know we had talked about this a little before, and I was really stoked because she is a favorite character. I like her performances. I like how she, so I was psyched to see that she gets this whole episode, and it just goes kind of insane. So
yeah, I mean, it's like I feel like we've already said, and I like to bring it back, even though it's been so long. They really give everybody kind of their little episode to do their thing, to have their run, you know, and they are different. They still feel familiar, but they're all different, and they all have their little flavor that I feel like really is telling about the character. Yeah. And then, like you said, the performances are just so good. So it's like, I think that helps everybody act at like even better levels, because it's just like, this is all you, go for it, you know?
Right. It's a weird look into another world too, because it's all pre-pandemic, and it's like beautiful, obviously we've talked about it before, but shot in Chicago and stuff, but in Atlanta, I guess, but just crazy good. And I don't know, let's see what I have for my notes here. So that first scene, she's sort of in her bedroom. She has this ORREY, she's playing with it, she's doing a lot of like brain work into like figuring out how to get it
which is
put together,
which is definitely I feel like a theme of her, and in the episode where it's just like we're seeing Hippolyta really figure something out. Right.
Yeah, it's as we said, it's Hippolyta's episode, so yeah. She does I guess she starts just messing with it and playing around with it and doing some deep thoughts, and we flash back a little bit to the wreckage of when she first made it to the mansion after she had turned around in the 3rd episode, I think. So basically, she gets this thing to work, and it sort of starts to come alive, and then this egg thing opens up on the top, and it has a key inside, a gold key, and it says, "Every beginning is in time, and every limit of an extension of space. Every beginning is in time, and every limit of an extension of space." And then there's some coordinates and a key, and that's the last thing we see as she sort of grabs it and goes. So I think that is. I don't know if that's the first time we've saw it work, because I can't remember if we saw it work with William.
Not that I would know of.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time. And I mean, like we're saying, to see her figure that out, because it's like the whole time she's kind of been playing the background, but she's smart, and she's been like, something's afoot, something's wrong.
Right.
Nobody's telling me. Everybody thinks I don't realize, but I realize.
Right.
And then she gets the one thing that kind of helps her know that, yes, something is wrong. And this is the first step to kind of figuring it all out, for her at least.
Right.
And then we jump into, I guess, the other storylines.
Yeah.
Which is nice that they packaged them up here for us.
Yeah, exactly. We do see, I guess it's a reunion or not a reunion, but we see Hippolyta, and we see Christina Braithwaite in the basement. And I guess they just keep those bodies chilling, just laying around out, and not, which is weird.
Yeah, that is
weird. And you see
weird.
William and somebody else. I can't remember who that other person was. Oh, it's the worker from the well, from the
right. The one that we had suspicions on.
Right. So they're sort of laying out, covered in white sheets, and they're in the basement talking a little bit. We find out that Captain Lannister actually killed him, Michael, or Braithwaite, William. Sorry,
right.
So I'm a little foggy, but there's some things learned here that I thought was good, and it's sort of what you just started on as saying, like, her words were like. They sort of, to me, start sounding similar, Christina and Hippolyta, because it's like she's saying, she could never be in this club. She wanted to do so many other things, but her father, it's a men-only club. And so you start seeing that all of this stuff was just sort of her created world, so she could slip into this thing, which I guess could, time travel, change the world, yada, yada. But I just there's a few lines like, there's so many more things I want to do. I can be so much more, do things that no one's imagined. I don't know. It's just kind of like, I like that, like what you were saying about, when Hippolyta gets her own episode, it's like, I don't know. I just started seeing the connections to different people, and I don't know.
For sure.
So yeah, at some point she does hit a wall, and she's like, she puts her foot down, and she's like, I want all the truth.
Yeah. 'Cause like after the whole thing with the ORREY, and she gets the key, we go straight to Christina, like you were saying, but it's with Ruby. And because it's with Ruby, I feel like this moment, like, to say the episode is definitely a Hippolyta episode, but it, like, I really like how they put this together, because the two of them, like, she thought she was in love with that William dude, and then when she sees it's the girl, she's a little freaked out. But it's funny because of how easily she's like, kind of just like, because they are so similar, like you were kind of saying. Yeah. They are like, you know what? We do kind of still like each other, even if you are a girl, Right.
Yeah, it was her words, I think, was the line. Like, I was still saying the words, Yeah, I think it's an interesting... Obviously, Ruby got into it on sort of a negative, sort of drug into the whole thing, and then she sort of, went a little further, and now she's in all this stuff. But yeah, I like that sort of relationship of Christina and Ruby. I think it's an interesting... It's obviously like a good, empowering female episode, but it's also... I like that they're sort of slowly becoming on the same page of like what Christina and her sort of how they blocked her out, and then they see all these opportunities of like, oh well, if why don't we control the universe or whatever that web of, and we find out later, but and
both being outsiders.
The big thing I think we found on that is that it was the last pages is what the pregnant woman was carrying out of the fire is sort of what becomes a big point in this episode. And we see Letty in the flashback of the fire now too, so she's having weird
she's joined
similar
in on
groups.
this dream about
Right.
what's going on or what happened in the fire, but then her stomach was on fire.
I called it fire pregnant. Yeah.
Fire pregnant.
And then it engulfs her. Yeah, which I guess is just, teasing for later or something.
Right.
But yeah. Anyway, I thought it was interesting. I like them because it felt like they were sort of getting on the same book and,
Right. I agree
we're
with
doing it for better reasons than, say, the sheriff, captain or whatever, who is just obviously wants power. But so that end of that last scene sort of turns into this next one, which is Letty in bed.
Right.
And it was a nightmare. The fire pregnancy was fake. But then you start seeing that basically she looks over for Tick and he's not there. So she goes to his favorite place, the study room.
The study.
The basement study or wherever. And he's sort of out of it a little bit, but they have a moment, which is nice. And
Yes.
I can't remember, and I should have maybe watched the whole last episode, but just as a refresh, but do they know she's pregnant at that point? Because she looks pregnant.
The whole thing is like, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
They just really consummate everything in the last episode, and then this is pretty much like he got her pregnant is what happened, because she immediately has the dream about the fire pregnancy.
Yep.
Which wakes her. She looks to find Tick. He's not there. He's in the study contemplating things as one does in the study. And looks and finds solace almost in his embrace. And it's nice because they, after having gone through what they've gone through in the first 6 episodes, the ups and downs, this is kind of like, I feel like them being like, okay, we're together. We are a thing now.
Yeah.
And they don't know about the pregnancy or anything like that, but they are together. And you can tell because he invites her to the things that he's thinking about. His adventure now, he invites her into it.
Right.
Willingly. And he tells her what he's thinking about and what he's trying to get the pages with the book and everything like that.
Right.
Which
you can
then
tell
leads
too
us-
she's on team Tick because she's like, she says like people have died from casting these spells, and Letty's like, not you.
Right.
So you could tell they're sort of like
she's all in. She like all in with the magic. She's all in with him. It's like it's funny because she is all in and she likes to be that way, but this one thing is almost now a new secret, just like folded in, with the pregnancy and everything like that. It's just like kind of hovering in the middle.
Yeah, and within that, I guess they sort of also talk about the dream towards the end, and I guess they had the same dream, so that's when it really really clicks in. But and they figure out that Christina is going after the pages because she wants wants the control. Obviously, we know that there's a storyline happening about that, but they don't know that. So Tick says, we're going to get the whole damn book, which I thought was funny. Control it all. And then we sort of from here go into the Montrose world, which is
ever evolving.
a beautiful / scary / I don't know. It's just a weird scene because it starts out so nice and peaceful, and it seems like, and it's his first overnight. Sammy is staying overnight for the first time. It seems. And they're waking up, and he's making Montrose breakfast. And he went shopping, but he was really good about not letting anybody see him come back in. And they made this really big deal over the neighbor and her scarf, which I thought was interesting, but I guess they just did that because I don't know. I didn't know if they were like trying to like, because she had said like they're talking about the store, right? And the fact that she got that scarf from the department store, but then there were I think the quote was like, I haven't seen a black woman in there at all, or ever come in and out of there or whatever, back to season episode 2 or 3 of the thing. But I just thought it was weird that they really focused on that. But I guess it was about like, hey, let's up the stakes of you going outside from my apartment and coming back in. So.
Exactly. I feel like that's exactly what it is, and kind of being like, for him to notice it, something like that, to do all that is to kind of affirm it. He's like, he's super comfortable if he knows all of that about my neighbor, what I mean? And and then he immediately is like upset now.
Yeah. Hates the coffee. It's too wet.
Yeah. Everything sucks. Can't believe you said that.
Yeah.
You got way too comfortable.
Yeah, he's got some stuff going on, that Montrose.
He does.
But yeah, they storm out, Sammy storms out after, basically being insulted for making breakfast, and standing right there is the two detectives.
Right.
Tick and Letty. And obviously that's a very emotional scene, and catching your dad, basically his true identity as a gay man in 50,
right,
whatever,
just spilling out straight into the hallway.
Yep. And obviously he's furious. Tick is furious. He storms out. And then, he's basically, he has a chip on his shoulder because for years and years, Montrose has just, tried to toughen him up by beating the shit out of him. And so he wouldn't be soft. But, then again, he's like, now he knows his dad's gay, and it's like, well, what the fuck were you doing? Why, was it all? But again, this is all in the 50s, late 40s, early 50s, like, gay like scares or what, like people just didn't know what the fuck.
Right.
Still today.
As a man, as a black man at the time, to be emasculated all the time, to have like, you got to be strong type idea. So it's like, I can only imagine how, as like being a gay man and then having a son, how you were trying to impress upon them this type of survival instinct, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. And then pretty much when he learns this type of thing, especially in the way he learns it, over the way that he was probably taught all the manly things, you just see this person almost have this implosion. And I really like it ups the stakes of the relationship with Letty, which I love, because they are like, again, even closer together after the father.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I don't know. I think it's a good moment.
Yeah. So we move from that intense scene to outside Hippolyta's place, and we see her packing the Woody, which is a very soft, I think, sort of tip of the hat to the earlier scene of them as a family, and everybody's happy, and they're doing their checklist of D, but this time D's just not having it and doesn't want to go over the stupid checklist. Which I thought it's a fun little character turn for her. Obviously, she's still hurting, and yada yada. But Tick and Letty show up. They're trying to borrow the car. It's not happening, and she's kind of like, I think, rude to them a little bit, just because she knows that they haven't told the truth about how her husband died. So it's like you can tell there's a little.
Yeah, it's funny because like I wouldn't even say she's being rude, because like Tick, it's so funny. I love, like, even we can say that this is a Hippolyta episode, right? But like, even in the show, Tick doesn't know that. Like, Tick is like, he has no idea that this is a Hippolyta episode. So he's over there like, listen, we gotta go, and I gotta go continue to investigate and do my thing. This is super important. Like, he really is like, she's a grown woman, and he's like challenging her like on where she needs to go, where she can go. You know what I mean? And it's good that she's like, listen, like, this is my car. I do all this stuff.
My church.
I'm good.
What is it?
Like,
my church work or something she called it. Yeah, but I can't remember.
All right. She can handle herself. And I love that she tells him that. And he's just like, right. Okay.
It's fun to sort of see that stuff though, too, because I don't know. It's like, I feel like especially women of color, but women in general have been like this series is huge about that. Obviously, we've talked about that before, but I don't know, it's fun. It's nice to see like a little bit of like pushback of like, I'm a grown ass woman. I can think for myself.
Right.
And that's a huge theme in the whole episode of just like feeling small.
Exactly.
And feeling smaller, when you're married to someone, or, when you start dating someone, and like you have so much to, that you want to do with your life. And it's just like, it's tough when obviously at a different time and you're not a male. So
Right.
But let's see. From there, we move to, this is what I'm calling the cool ass Ruby phase. She's cool. She's sitting in the
With
window
shades,
like a model. And she should be smoking. She's not, but she should be. And I don't know. It's just a nice little. So before that, I guess Letty decides to stay back and talk to her sister. So do some family stuff. So from there, we cut inside and we see Ruby sitting in the window, just sunglasses on, looks like a model, and they just have a nice little sort of apology talk of like I think Letty is feeling like she's becoming her mother, even though she fought against that every step of the way in her whole entire life.
That's how it goes, though.
And they have a nice talk, but the end is nice because I feel like so they sort of find some sort of middle ground and probably say things they hadn't said to each other before. And one of them, which I like, was a very nice tag to the end of the scene, which is I never heard Mama apologize in her whole life, so maybe you and her aren't exactly the same. Which I don't know. It struck me because I struggle with those things of like having an alcoholic father and like I never wanted to go down that route, and I never wanted to like wake up one day and be like, oh, I feel like that's my same path. You know what I mean? I think our natural instincts are to like revolt from our parents and be our own people, but the I don't know if you have any other insight, but like I just feel like this conversation was sort of like
it's like both of them coming to terms with the differences that don't have to be problems, that can just be things that are different about each other. And because I feel like a lot of times in families you have arguments or whatnot, and they kind of like cause fractures, and sometimes you don't talk or you don't see each other for a long time, and like you don't realize until years and years later like that it was like no reason for any of that. It could have just been like one of these little conversations, and it's just nice that they were able to have it, because of these insane circumstances. Like it causes them to broach these things that would be much more difficult in more normal circumstances. It's like, I guess, like easier to go over emotional stuff when like you fight in your life all the time, and like seeing all this magic even in this circumstance going around. It's like you just want to come to somebody that's familiar and just kind of like let it all out, and even if you got problems with that person.
Right. Yeah. It's and again, we're in the decade of like there wasn't therapy really. I mean, there was, but it wasn't. Nobody went to therapy unless you were a murderer. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like. Especially you in North Carolina growing up and me in Ohio, it's just like, I don't know. It's not a thing.
That's definitely not a thing.
It's like you just buried it and you moved along. And then it reared its ugly head at some point in your adult life. And hopefully it didn't ruin it, But anyway, I just thought it was a sweet scene. I really liked it a lot. And I think there's something to like her thinking, she doesn't know she's pregnant yet. Or maybe she does, whatever we just talked about. But like, I still feel like there's something there of like sisters are deeper than like, especially when a new life is coming into the world and, all this stuff. And even if she doesn't know, I feel like somehow or another that's in that scene, at least when I watched it. But
yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like it's in her head. It's got to be. Because, I mean, at least she's having dreams about it. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
definitely in her head.
So yeah, we're back on the road to Kansas with Hippolyta. She's singing this cute little French song, and I wanted to look it up just to see if there's any relevance to it, any Easter egg stuff, but couldn't find the song. So maybe it does. I'll have to dig a little deeper. But obviously it's a very short scene. But the cool thing is, she's driving along, and then she looks out to her right, and then there's, this beautiful woman on a motorcycle driving by, you know what I mean? And she's just like,
very
and
empowered.
it's just such a, back to the small thing and like her feeling, it's like this one of these things where like, I'm on the road, I'm doing it by myself, and I'm going to go figure it out. And the sort of button on the end is she does find the comic book in the, in her lunch bag. So it was slipped in there. Post that, at that point, Tick has gotten on a bus by himself and gotten to St. Louis to see his family. I think it's an auntie or something he's at. Auntie's house.
I believe so.
And then they sort of start talking about the past, and Tick is wondering, anything about a family book or something. And then, one of the sort of big things I think in this episode was the Tulsa riots, and her saying that, listen, white folks burn down everything. So it's like, if something like that existed, it would not exist now, just because of, Tulsa, basically. So he sees something in a photo in the photo book and looks in the mirror, and he has the same sort of insignia burnt on him, or a scar, or a what's it called? A birthmark. Something or another. But I thought that was funny too, when he has his shirt down and he's looking in the mirror, and his random, his Annie or somebody he hasn't seen in 100 years walks in and his shirt's off and he's looking in the, just thought it was funny. Yeah, exactly.
What are you doing,
exactly.
bro?
But,
I'm on a hunt.
But yeah, I don't, that was a short one and short and sweet, but yeah, they definitely find they see a picture of the book. So it's like,
yeah, he's well on his way with his adventure. I feel like, is just more emphasis in that, because again, this is not as much as Tick would love it to be. It's not a Tick episode. Oh, it's so funny. Like, I love that idea of him just trying to hijack the episode the entire time. I feel like something is he's just so great in this whole thing that obviously it's. I don't know, but again, I love seeing different people taking the spotlight. So, I mean, I would watch that dude act all day, but it's there's also, a whole talented cast of people. So it's fun to see these worlds, these little avenues they're going down. So after that, we see that Hippolyta has arrived in Mayfield, Kansas. Kansas? Yes. And, we see her walk up to the points of the map that she had, went to. And then you see this full moon and then this weird dome thing that looks like a planetarium or something. I don't know. I would say that's the perfect example.
Yeah, planetarium.
Of what it looks like.
But then inside, it's like a weird, it looks like a missile silo almost. Yeah.
It looks underground, even though it didn't look like that.
Yeah, but not a lot happens. Basically, we pop back to, then this is where we start I think the pregnancy idea gets put in her head, but we pop back to the house, and Ruby and Letty are entertaining a party for Dee at Hippolyta's house. And you could tell that they're just sort of on better terms. They're laughing, and they're making food for the girls, and they're having a little chit chat, and I think there's some definite teasing here and there, and this is where they talk about the south side, I guess she was staying on. So I guess that means she is, this whole thing confuses me, but I feel like so she must be staying with Christina, right?
Yes.
So they talk about that a little bit, and
cooks.
Oh yeah,
she asked her to taste some of the soup, and then she has
this is where it really,
which is definitely the pregnancy. We're like, okay, she definitely is pregnant at this point, and she probably does now know.
Right. Yeah, she tastes the food, and it's like,
or at least suspect it, I should say.
But the huge, obviously that's a huge thing. But then the huge thing is when she rushes out of the kitchen to get some air into, I guess, Hippolyta's room. She sees the ORREY sitting there, and starts connecting the dots, and I think her and TikTok, and
right, she calls him, and they both come to the understanding that wherever this is telling them to go, Hippolyta is definitely
and in danger,
there,
possibly,
if not on the way.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, we let's see, we go from there back to St. Louis, and this is where the photo album comes out, and she had referenced this certain, I guess it was a dinner party or some sort of barbecue or something, and we see a picture of that, and that's where the I guess I skipped ahead, but that's where Tick sees the thing on his back, and that he sort of has a matching scar or birth mark or something. But this is, you can tell the pieces are coming together here, and it's like, oh, they're all going to meet somehow or another, and you know what I mean. But it starts, I guess this is where it starts getting crazy. This is where it starts like, upon first viewing, I was just like, well, there's a lot to take in. Second viewing, I liked it a lot more.
Yeah. Because it's very confusing to just see all this stuff happening without like knowing what to look for.
I guess once back inside of the building, we see Hippolyta with the key. She enters the key into the thing, and machine after she slaps it like what's his name from Fonzie, and the machine comes to life, and somehow she knows the exact coordinates to adjust in it, and then this is the worst part of the episode for me. I don't know about you, but she walks away for a minute, right? And she sits down, and then we see all of these like algorithms around her, sort of like a la, what is it? Beautiful Mind. Yeah.
Beautiful Mind. Yeah.
It sort of took me out a little bit because it was like, I don't know. It just.
No, I hear you. Because it's like, it's asking a lot of us. Because it's like everything else was so subtle with how smart she is. For it to be that like, oh, she's got all these algorithms in her head. Let's just show them all on the screen type deal. I don't even feel like, I hate to do this because I never like doing this, but like they could have definitely not had that scene, just that moment, and just had her continuing to be in front of that, and it would have been it just would have been fine.
I don't know why she had to like, I don't know.
Go sit over there and figure it out, but she ultimately does figure it out.
Yeah, but again, she's not like the mathematician of the bunch. You know what I mean? Like I could see George or somebody doing this of like being like. And not saying that she can't, but I'm just saying like that's what the character has been built so far is like you don't see her like doing crazy math equations around the house. You know what I mean? So it was just weird. It was just out of the left field for me. But the other thing is I marked is that I really didn't like the music in that little shot too of her. It was just weird to me. But
it's super sentimental.
She does plug in the numbers once she gets back to the machine, and then a couple guards come in. She hides. They obviously see her right away. And then that's sort of when everything starts going crazy. Tick shows up, starts just busting ass like it's a Tick episode. And the machine starts going crazy. This was my absolute favorite part of the whole thing is this weird portal thing that they made. And I'm sure it's all post and all sound effect, but man, do I love that thing. It's just, I don't know if you have anything that likens to it, but it's kind of like, it feels like it's just randomly generating different planes of existence.
Right. It's like if you ever play like fighting games and you got the random button on the location and it's just like things are just shifting and shifting in the background as the different locations that they have. But it's like somebody tore the earth, or excuse me, like something behind them, and it was just like you're just ripped into there. You just see like all these things happening at once in this area. Craziness.
Some of it's just space. Some of it's like looks like different worlds, like Jurassic Park almost. Right. It's kind of, but I just love it. I thought it looked good, and the sound effects they used I thought were great.
Yes.
Support for this podcast comes from Today's Military. You have a calling. We have an answer.
Finding your purpose can mean following a different path, and that can be intimidating, but also rewarding. Consider the unexpected by looking at Today's Military. You have a calling. We have an answer. Learn more at todaysmilitary.com.
Microsoft Teams is helping a bicycle company reinvent the way that they work.
We make low-maintenance bicycles for everyday riders. Once the pandemic hit, we had nobody coming into the showroom, so we started doing virtual visits via Microsoft Teams.
We're able to see 2 or 3-fold the amount of customers we used to be able to see. All of a sudden, we could open up our showroom to customers around the world. I really think it's going to set a standard for retail moving forward.
Learn more at Microsoft.com/Teams.
So they have opened some portals, and the machine's sort of going crazy. And at that point, this Hippolyta shoots a cop, and he goes down. then she is sucked into one of these voids, another dimension, basically. And then we. No, I guess later. That's later. So yeah, that sort of gets us up to like the supernatural part of the stuff, and then it starts. If you thought that was a left turn, then we really. Oh my god!
Crazy after that, because when she goes into that portal, she sees those two alien things,
and they kind of robot-y, and then she wakes up in this white room, completely naked.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. And then she has these things on her wrists that have been surgically implanted, that look like little like fuse boxes or something with wires in them.
Right.
Yeah, it was just it's just a weird, obviously you're jumping into another dimension or something, so it should be weird, but it also kind of felt like a 70s sci-fi to me, a little bit, but yeah, I dug it. She puts on a jumpsuit and then she sort of like starts exploring and then notices that she's kind of caged up, locked in. Mm-hmm. And then this might be my favorite character, and this is my likening. The woman arrives and she's obviously like I don't know who she is, what she is, but she's obviously leading this, whatever is happening in this other dimension. And she shows her power and can throw her across a room. But I likened it. I love her hair. Her hair was like this crazy, like upside down U or something. And I likened it to. You remember that doll that the Rugrat would carry around called Susie? So it's like Susie Diana Ross mashup. 70s Diana. So I call it Susie Ross. Yeah. So
Susie Ross.
I don't know what her. But so yeah, she's sort of basically at this point after she talks to them, she's just going crazy, and who knows how long she'd been in there.
Right.
But yeah, she's just sort of again doing more equations as she starts wandering around, sort of thinking about what's happening and exploring her space and sort of trying to figure out how to get out of there after she had been sort of manhandled by this woman. She starts saying, "What would Dad say?" So I guess this was she's really trying to like dig down up to what George would say in this. I'm presuming that's the dad she's talking about, her husband.
Right.
But yeah, it gets a little weird in there and a little.
She starts deducing again, like, because that's pretty much what I feel like is the big theme, is that like she can figure all this stuff out if she just tries hard enough. So we see her in this. She's like, "What's going on?" She got thrown, and then she's like thinking about all, like you said, like what would Dad do, and then she also references like the comic book character of like her daughter, and like that type of stuff. And then she just starts, I don't really know why, but she starts pulling at that little panel, and then understands somehow that like weirdly the gravity of these panels and how they're floating up in the air.
But it was just like a table though. And she just pulled it looked like slate
pieces of it,
squares or something, but different shapes. And yeah, they levitate, and then she could push them around in the air like they're balloons. Yeah, that whole thing was a little foggy for me, just figuring out. I don't know how. I don't. Just getting from that to like levitating. Not that she's doing it, but just like figuring out that those things levitate was just like what? Anyway, but from there, yeah, we do see her get into the. She finds a little tool thing. She breaks open the control panel by the door, and then unplugs one wire, and the door opens. This is where the confrontation starts, I guess, between her and Susie Ross, because they this might be a little more of the manhandling stuff, but at this point, Hippolyta, you could tell, is just like slap happy or something. She's a little out of it, you could tell, and at some point, let's see. So at some point, Susie Ross is like telling her to name herself, and she's laughing at it and name it, and then all of a sudden, in I think part frustration, part like oh, what the, she's just out, she's just losing it. She says, I want to be dancing on the stage in Paris with Josephine Baker. And instantly she shows up there. Obviously we see her sort of like fumble through the performance and get yelled at. And she sort of really forms a bond with Josephine Baker after a little while. But yeah, she's kind of like,
Right.
I don't know, just trying, obviously it's a metaphor for trying to figure herself out and find out who she is.
Right. I take this whole entire little sequence as this is the Hippolyta episode and this is her coming into her own, because this entity or whatever asks her to name herself, and then she takes it as a joke, and then this is her first level. She's like, it's a joke. So what, like, perfect world, what would I want to do? Right. That's what she says. So boom, she goes there and she's living this life, and Josephine Baker kind of like is almost like, I wouldn't say mentoring her, but like just her friend, and like they're going through what it would be like in that time. And then they have that moment at the end of it where she kind of enlightens her to being like opening up to what is exactly like, what is she upset about? What is it? What more could she want? Because she's like, Josephine's like saying that stuff about like, oh, I feel like a star.
Does Josephine, is she in on this whole?
I think
it seems like she is, right?
I think it's more, this isn't even actually like, this is all a function for Hippolyta. I don't think this is a real thing, because we'll just go through it, and I'll say later why I think that, but like, because she has the moment with Josephine and she kind of says that stuff to set her up to be like what it means to be a star, you know what I mean? Because it's like, she asked her who she was and she said something like perfect world type thing. And then she realizes what she really wants to be is herself. You know what I mean? It's not something about like fame or anything like that, or like a perfect world. It's like, I just want to be me. And then when she says that, it's like the second level of like understanding yourself, where she goes and she has to fight for that name,
Right.
And then
interesting. Yeah, there's some amazing, I mean, the end of this whole sequence is like some amazing back and forth and like really deep Hippolyta, like, I see what I was robbed of back then.
Right.
They found a smart way of lynching me without me noticing the noose.
Right.
And then there was the line that sometimes I just want to kill white folks, because basically they made her feel, obviously, made her feel small and all this sort of stuff. But I think I guess within that moment is when she names herself.
Exactly.
She realizes who she is. And
that's when because it's like nobody's even prompting her to do it at this point. So she's reached like a new level of like not needing that part, because she knows what it means to name herself. So she's actually doing it consciously. But then through that, she has a new challenge, which is like the war, like we said, the war part of what it would be to have the name of Hippolyta, what that name really means.
Is that, and so that is all connected with the homie Amazon.
I want to say so. I want to say so because it's like
interesting.
Because she says,
is it lineage for her, or is it like
I would say, because I think this is all a function for herself. I think it's more it being, it's like almost using it like a sample, you know what I mean? Like that Amazonian type thing is the idea of it, but we're going to put it in her perspective because, she's even in this fight, she's fighting like Confederate soldiers. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which wouldn't be who the Amazons are fighting at all.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's what I mean. I feel like it's all this is all ultimately for her. This isn't a real thing. And it's kind of like, this is her trying to get to herself, figure out who she is. And then as we see, like, she has to first learn from the teacher lady that like actually starts it off and kind of explains to her what it is to be that person. And then she gets annoyed at that person. Then she kind of has the talk, to her own people about it, what it means to be that person. Right. And then she says her final, like, I'm kind of glossing over, but like her final I am of that segment is to say, I am Hippolyta, George's wife, right?
Interesting. Okay.
But that is like, even that she grows to realize in this little segment isn't actually who she is.
Exactly. And this scene, I think, is I've said it before, but is one of my favorites of the whole thing of this, when we sort of reset a little bit. After all this craziness, after all this traveling, after all of the, her finding herself, naming herself, becoming this discoverer, we see her back on the bed and sort of the same shot, sort of everything of her and George as they wake up from bed in the beginning, and she wakes up, turns around, and yes, George is there, back to normal. Which I don't know, after we had talked, actually, since we've talked right now, it makes a lot more sense to me, but, I kind of figured something like this would happen of like, everything's back to sort of normal. Right. But the great thing is, just like you said, is like even though this is the normal she felt before all this happened, it wasn't the normal that made her feel like the person she is. So she's laying there, they're talking, she's talking about all these discoveries she made. And part of it was that she basically, I really liked how it was all worded, and I'm going to butcher it, but she's basically makes it seem like George didn't try to make her any bigger. He only would, a product of whatever that was, whatever it is, marriage or, men and how they think, especially in the 50s and 40s. But I just love the fact that she came to this realization that a man can't help her. And, it's like nobody's going to make her feel like herself but her.
Exactly.
I thought it was a very huge scene for the whole episode, as far as just like laying it out there, like, this is who I am now. I'm a discoverer. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's why it's like, because that's like her actually finding herself. Because the thing was, she was at this level, like you said. This is like coming back home when she's with George. That's where she was, and she thought that was like good, And it was safe. through losing him. The whole thing that was driving her was trying to find him. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's where she thinks, I'm George's wife. That's who I am. And then she, after going through all the other levels that she went to, she actually has a better understanding of herself and realizing how to actually, again, like we were talking about with Letty and Ruby, broach the subject of like something that's very hard to like tackle normally with words. It's much easier when you go through like these life-changing moments, you know what I mean? You can go back and have these conversations in the past and be like, look, this is how you made me feel. And even if the reaction is like George he had no idea, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
she still is even tactful enough to get him to understand that, you know what I mean? It's not even like it's an indictment of him. It's just she literally understands. She's at like a heightened understanding of the whole situation, And that's why she has her, like, she names herself, as you said, like the discoverer after that. And she realizes who she actually is.
Yeah. Great scene.
Yeah.
I do have to say the next part. So at that point they hold hands and she moves them to another plane of existence, which is this weird, sort of feels like early 60s, like, alien television show or some set, it almost feels like, but it's, they're in a weird alien planet. And at that point they so eloquently, like they do in the series, start playing. I had to look this up too, but they start playing. It's called Afrofuturistic by Sun Ra. Space is the Place. It's from a movie called Space is a Place, and it's just basically his words from this film over top of seeing them in this new environment where Hippolyta has a name and has found herself basically. But I don't know. I just thought it was great. I thought it was a great, fun scene of just looking at these weird little monstery things and seeing Susie Ross again floating in the void. And I don't know. It was a little Star Warsy to me, and a little like I don't know. It was just it was a weird conglomerate of like 60s sci-fi UFO shows. And
yeah, I mean, for me, I take it's a few things, because she's definitely the character from Dee's comic to start.
Right.
And I mean, as in the Lovecraft, they take a lot of, what is it called? influence from those type of things. So I think this is just an opportunity for them to really indulge themselves in those space areas, because she's like, I'm a discoverer, so this is what it would be like. And she like she's still going through that like gauntlet of like understanding herself. This isn't after it, this is during it. And that's why it's like, just like before, she's living a full little existence, just like this, like exploring and going through these things.
Right.
So and ultimately at her final I am type phase, she, as you said, like is confronted by Susie Ross, and she's like, you've named yourself, you said you're this thing, are you gonna come and be with us, and like, are you gonna like transcend and be like this type of person? And she's like, nah, I want to go back and like be with my people. But also I want to talk about like the words that Sun Ra was saying, because that's like a nice in keeping with the like talking about race relations and all these type of things. I feel like it was nice to be talking about how like a black person is like a myth, and how it's like to fight for the things that we need to fight for is like insane. It's like in a perfect world, I feel like someday that's kind of how the person's speaking. Like, it's crazy to think that this is a thing and that this was a thing. So the way that we live is like as a myth. It's not like we aren't even a real people. Like we aren't, like the way that we are treated is like as if we aren't real. Right. And it's nice on how that's positioned on something where this person is transcending like space and time, you know?
Right.
And living in all these different full lives and ultimately exploring. But then, like we said, just like, it's so funny because all these people do all this exploring, but ultimately the only thing that these people want is to just be home.
Yeah,
have
comfortable with themselves and being a human being,
right?
Not just a myth. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, the words were incredible. I come to you as a myth because that's what black people are, a myth. Just incredible. I like the end of this too, because it's sort of the Hollywood ending of like, oh well, I have to go now, right? I have to go explore, and she's like, no, I mean, my daughter needs me. I probably should handle that, and so she doesn't have no parents. But I kind of like that too, because it's the thing of like leaving the endless doors open, as far as like, she's still a mom, but what else can she do?
Right.
That actually leads us to the last scene, which is in the basement. We see those amazing portals opening again, and lo and behold, Tick comes out.
Tick comes out. That's what I love. That was awesome.
Yes. Obviously, this is the big ending. They're ramping up the end of the episode here, and I think he starts to hear sirens basically and freaks out a little bit.
Right.
Grabs his stuff. The cop's still dead there on the ground. And as the sirens approach, we do a slow zoom on the comic book that's in the pool of blood beside the cops, and that's sort of where they leave it.
And one other thing, he has a book. He comes out of the place with a book labeled Lovecraft Country.
Oh, he got it from that?
That's where he got it, yes.
Oh, I was wondering that because they did a special like close up of that. I didn't make the connection of him just grabbing it from there. So the idea is that Michael had been in there making this, or that this thing has just been around forever.
What thing's been around forever?
The bomb shelter, where the portal is.
No, he came out of one of the portals, and when he came out, he had the book.
Oh, right. And he came out in the basement of.
So pretty much, we don't see him get sucked up into the portal like we saw Hippolyta, right. But we are like supposed to infer that, I believe, because we see him come out. You know what I mean? Because that's why I mean it's like surprising that he came out, because we never saw him go in.
Right.
But apparently he did, because he's coming out of one. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And as he comes out, he has that book. That's like the name of the show.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's episode 7. Honestly, I was very weirded out about it upon first watch, and second watch, I just loved it. So I can't. Well, I think we have 3 left, right? 2 left.
Yeah.
And then we'll be done with this little series. But yeah, that I guess that does it. Any other parting thoughts on the episode?
I mean, I just think it was a really, really good episode. I like how it's story driven, but also very, very singular in its like moments, that everybody can have their own little areas of like shining.
Yep.
And they can like, there's more, I feel like, that can be done with all these like little areas, as well as like the overarching story. I like that there's so many different avenues that they are touching with and then always involving. It makes it enjoyable. Like, and there's so much to be looking for. Even if I'm somebody that like is looking for certain stuff, it's like there's still even more to be like, whoa, I didn't see that coming.
Right.
Which I love.
Yeah. I guess from the get-go, this has been, I've enjoyed, obviously you go into this thinking like, well, it's going to be the series, from my perspective, it's like I went into it being like, all right, well, I have a few like thoughts of what it could be. Obviously it's going to be a lot about race and a lot about 50s race and, that Jim Crow era and transitioning. And so I sort of, all of this extra like, sort of empowering women and showing these little pockets of like, this is, it just makes it bigger to me. And it just feels a lot more just like something where, you're just showing scenes of, like watching a movie where you're just seeing some event, some negative race event happen in the 50s, 60s, and you're just replaying it,
I know what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, I just dig
there's a delicacy to what's going on and trying to like show the deepness of like all the interactions that would happen and not just make it like flashy.
Yep.
I agree.
Oh man. Well, let's I guess number 8 would be next. So we'll see where the world takes us. But yeah, thank you so much, Sebastian. You can find Sebastian
at,
you want to give him your socials again?
Yeah,
since we've been away for a while.
BASA million MILLION. That's pretty much everything.
Cool.
And North South on SoundCloud and all that type of stuff.
Definitely check out North South. Yeah, I've been. have you putting up more stuff recently?
Oh yeah, just actually. I mean, there's always new beats and things like that, and I rapping and everything like that always.
Nice.
To be honest, but I just opened up this tape I was supposed to put out last year. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff. So if there's any time to listen, there's stuff to listen to.
All right, well, you can find all of the Going Dork socials at Going Dork. I think it's all the same, goingdork.com for episode stuff. Check that out there. And I am at Remy Balon, at Jeremy Balon on the Instagram, Remy Balon on the Twits. And yeah, give us a shout. Let's talk about this episode in the socials if y'all wanna. So, Sebastian, you're a damn jewel.
I appreciate it.
You guys are
fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, man.
Peace.
Going Dork stars and is produced by me, Jeremy Balon. For more information on the show, visit goingdork.com and find us on all the socials as Going Dork. We are a part of the Seltzer Kings family of podcasts. For more information on them, check out seltzerkings.com. And if you want to continue the conversation, give me a shout on my socials at Remy Balon on most things, at Jeremy Balon on the Instagram. Thanks for listening.